invited me to join him in debating Steven Crowder because Ethan, by his own admission, was not like a guy who was well-versed in politics. Steven Crowder really wanted to debate him. But like anybody who has any type of like, anybody who professes what Steven Crowder does, it's facts, not feelings. They put footnotes at the end of their show and all the link to all their sources. He makes it all about like, how this is about, integrity, about the issues. These debates, I get it's YouTube culture and it's all about like, who gets to show up who, and that it's like, personality filled. But at the end of the day, if you really do genuinely care about these issues and can defend them, it really doesn't matter who is bringing them to the table.
Or it shouldn't. But the thing is that these guys are often, a little
disingenuous,
prickly about speaking to anybody outside of very controlled settings, and also, and not just anybody. They'll do it with college students or somebody like Ethan, who isn't primarily a political podcaster or something. But everybody else, it's a little bit scary. Because
they know on the merits they can't win. Yeah. And so they will find somebody who cannot deliver the merits, or is not familiar necessarily with all the merits. And so during that debate, when Crowder didn't want to talk to me, he kept cutting over to Dave Landau, who's a comedian. Now, apparently, Landau has left the show and was talking about how the horrible working conditions there and how sensitive Crowder was.
Surprising.
To the fact that Landau was funnier than him, or perceived him to be funnier than him. And there may be more. He says he's not dishing all the stuff, just the stuff about how poorly he was treated from a working perspective, which is also really funny because Crowder was complaining about that contract.
I think we know a little bit of what wasn't being spoken about, given that something was filed in 2021 that we're going to be talking about here.
Oh, well, let's, I'm not familiar with any of this, but apparently there's a breaking video in the middle of the show. Let me tell you, I'm just kidding. I don't know what this is. So let's see it.
I have been living with a proverbial boot.
Pause it 1 second. Neck. This sounds like when you were talking to him.
Crowder, you can tell when he's really distressed and he's nervous about saying something. This is fascinating because he has been doing his show for years and years. And yet still, when he gets nervous, like when, he was thinking that maybe Sam's going to jump on the stream or whatever it is, he tightens up in his chest. Yeah. You can hear it. And he's gasping for air almost.
I would love to play poker with Steven Crowder.
I've got to call.
Oh, crap. I raise you.
But listen. I just want to tell, this is for the young folk out there, particularly young men. If your fundamental weakness is inside of you, there's no amount of weightlifting you're going to do that's going to shore that up. You need to work on what's inside here and what's inside here. Lifting weights, exercise is good for your health, but if you find that you need to have massive biceps, maybe it's because you feel like you're lacking somewhere in here. Continue.
I have been living with a proverbial boot on my neck for going on years now. Since 2021, I've been living through what has increasingly been a horrendous divorce. Now, let me say on the outset, to be clear, there is no infidelity, any kind of physical
abuse
at
all.
Pause
it for 1 second. Didn't he just have his kid last year? The twins?
When are his twins born? Yeah.
Well, they were born. They had to have been born after. Weren't they born after the debate? When did that debate happen? Or maybe that was in the summer.
It was in 2021.
It was right around the time that the kids were born.
June 2021.
Yeah, the kids were born like after that,
The filing was at the end of 2021.
The what was?
The filing for divorce was at the end of 2021,
okay.
And it was Hillary Crowder, his wife.
Yeah, now I'll tell you.
She filed.
Let me tell you what our pediatrician said to me when our first kid was born. A pediatrician said, I always tell my patients, don't make any decisions about your marriage. until 6 months after your first child is born, a year after your second one. Now, twins, forget about it. But so look, like I've been through a divorce. It's not fun. But of course, I would imagine being married to Steven Crowder, it's even less fun. But go ahead.
I've been living through what has increasingly been a horrendous divorce. Now, let me say on the outset, to be clear, there is no infidelity, any kind of physical abuse at all on either side. And no, this was not my choice. My then wife decided that she didn't want to be married anymore. And in the state of Texas, that is completely permitted. It's been the most heartbreaking experience of my life, what I consider to be my deepest personal failure. And just so you know, my opinions on parenting and families have not changed. I've always believed that children need a mom and a dad, that divorce is horrible. And I still believe that children need a mom and a dad and that divorce is horrible. But in today's legal system, my beliefs don't matter.
Pause it.
In Texas,
This is fascinating. Is he genuinely claiming that he is mad that the laws are such that if someone doesn't want to be married to him, he can't force them to stay married?
On Friday, we played the clip of Judge Kaczmarek.
Yeah.
The judge who authored the Mifepristone decision that thankfully was stayed by the Supreme Court, going on right-wing talk radio and saying that all the societal decay started when no-fault divorce really became more promulgated in the sexual revolution, which means that women have the power to leave marriages that are abusive in some way, or if they're not happy. Steven Crowder is bemoaning that his ex-wife, too soon to be, had the agency to file for divorce without his permission.
Now, I also want to say, look, I should say this because Stephen made it clear there was no abuse on either side and no infidelity. He didn't say either side, but one doesn't know. I want to say, just for the record, I had nothing to do with this. I've never met the former Mrs. Crowder.
Yeah.
That it wasn't like, I don't know if she saw what happened when Stephen came on there. Maybe, I would imagine, it's not inconceivable to me that somebody could see their husband run in that way and feel like, this is a sort of a force majeure. You ever see that movie?
No.
Force majeure, where you see like an essential weakness in your person, or a flaw, and you can't get past it.
She got the ick.
I just want to say that was never my intention. I know people say like, "Oh, you sent Steven Crowder into the hospital," and that may be true.
You'll take credit for that.
It may have caved. I may have caved his chest. It wasn't my intention. But I would hate to think that I was responsible for
Diminishing him in his wife's eyes.
Honestly, it's my burden to cross, and in some ways, I also it makes me also think like maybe we should force women to stay in marriages that they don't want to be married to people. Like this whole thing where you can get a divorce if you're a woman and decide you don't want to be involved. Maybe that's too liberal of a policy, but let's hear more what he has to say.
divorce is permitted when one party wants it, period. So for well over a year, in the best interest as well as physical safety of my children, we've decided to keep this issue private and to resolve it privately with the appropriate attorneys, what have you, legal jargon. And all this, one thing I want to be really clear about is certain. True north here is that my children are blameless, completely without fault. And so we decided to resolve these issues privately.
I was blaming the kids over
as it's
here.
in their best interests, both emotionally and physically, to do so. Now, the other issue is...
Aren't the kids like less than 1 year old? Like
2 years old in June.
They'll be 2 years old in June?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, May or June.
So he's like, don't blame my baby children for my not infant or my toddler children for breaking up my marriage.
Yeah, how about you? Can I blame you?
No, I'm down.
Well, no, it's clearly the law and the woman. If the divorce was filed within like 2 or 3 months of the children being born, I suspect that there was, a lot of regret building about who.
Remember,
who
he
she
took an
met.
extended hiatus at that time and said it was entirely medical. I wonder if it was entirely medical, if there was other stuff going on, like filing for divorce, for instance.
Well, yeah.
It's possible.
These issues privately, as it's in their best interests, both emotionally and physically, to do so. Now, the other issue is, and this is something that I've kept private for likely far too long, many other people knew about this behind the scenes. Some, not all, but some of them in positions of power, influence, leverage, knew of this. They also knew that the safety of my children included keeping it private. So if you're familiar with the idea of extortion, then you know the feeling well. Now, some of these threats were so thinly veiled that I'm frankly surprised you didn't all guess immediately.
Stephen has a lot going on.
I love the fact that this guy's turning this into a video. Like
They
this.
produced the segment. They had it ready to go.
I mean, look, I am sympathetic with the idea of having to tell your audience that you're getting divorced. I don't remember the day that I mentioned it, but I think I basically said, I'm getting a divorce. I don't want to talk about it. I appreciate people, calling in and this and that. And that was that.
And then you're like, Hartman shouldn't have been alluding to it like he was.
But then I pulled up a clip of Tom Hartman doing his Tom Hartman minute, going like,
St. Sam's got a lot of free time.
Oh my God, this guy's turning this into like, I care so much about my kids. Let me see if I can monetize this and work this into my Daily Wire feud.
And I have a question about this. Like, he didn't acknowledge the Candace Owens, what he's, gonna call extortion or blackmail, or allude to it at some point at the time that it happened. So why is he saying it now as he makes the divorce public? Because it doesn't seem to confirm that it's about, she didn't confirm it's about the divorce. Why would she blackmail somebody over a divorce if that's all there is?
Yeah,
It's just
a limited hangout.
It's just weird. Yeah, it's just weird. A limited hangout sounds right, but I mean, supposedly, well, let's continue on with this. This is pretty amazing. I can't believe he's using this opportunity, which he has supposedly kept it private for the sake of his 1-year-old kids. I'm
their life of
or
something.
2 years. Like, I'm unclear. Like,
is their life in
why
jeopardy?
is there physical and emotional?
Well, he's trying to say Candace Owens is.
But I mean, like,
is-
do these kids? I will say this. Do you remember what the excuse was why he canceled on Ethan the first time that he was supposed to debate? It was that there was an emergency with his wife and her pregnancy. This is a guy who, despite the fact that he's saying we kept it private for the sake of the emotional and physical well-being of my 18-month-old kids, this is a guy who's willing to use them as props to do videos. Like, I mean, look, when I use my kids as props, I use them as props. Although, Saul is still grounded for his interview that he did on here last summer. But let's continue. This is amazing. This is really almost more despicable. I was sympathetic at the beginning of this, but now I'm starting to be nauseated by it. Go ahead.
Threats were so thinly veiled that I'm frankly surprised you didn't all guess immediately.
Stephen has a lot going on, I guess is the best way to say it. He has a lot going on, and that should be clear because people don't do stuff like this if there's not a lot going on in their lives. I would like to implore my audience and everybody that isn't paying attention to the situation not to condemn him, but to pray for him.
Wait. That's not the original clip. That's not the original clip of her blackmailing him, is it? Is that, or never mind, or
I think
allegedly it is? Okay, sorry, keep going. I thought there were two instances, but there might be. This was like the
is
one
the one
where
that he's
she
playing.
says back off of him. There was an original video where she alluded
Among
to
other
something else.
Daily Wire people, right? I think
Yes,
you're talking about,
yes.
Lives. I would like to implore my audience and everybody that isn't paying attention to the situation not to condemn him, but to pray for him. Sometimes people need a prayer. Sometimes people need a scripture. Stephen purports to be a Christian. I am unsure at this moment if it is my place to say more than that. maybe if I feel in further defense, some things should be said, or maybe if I feel that the public has a right to understand certain circumstances.
Well, my children have a right to privacy. Now, some other issues have been, or I should say, inferences have been more pernicious behind the scenes with demands and threats to use this information that they believe would be so publicly embarrassing to me and my wife at a difficult time.
Pause it for 1 second. Like what? I mean,
I think I was wrong, by the way. I think that was the same video.
but, okay,
anyway.
but wait a second. I'm sort of confused by this because, like, look, it sucks to get divorced. Nobody gets married with the plan to get divorced. I was uncomfortable and hesitant about bringing it up on the show, and I was, because people have, some people have listened to me for almost 20 years now. Janine was hosting the show when we were getting married and like literally saying like, Sam's in his wedding right now. And, but I don't understand why this was like so like you could be blackmailed over it.
You should have went public with it then if it's such a liability. Like,
I mean, what's the lie? I can also see like, I don't want to talk about it during the process. It's a difficult time. Like, but keep referencing the children. Children are like 2-year-old kids can't tell what's going on in YouTube wars.
He's using his kids as a human shield.
It's honestly like, what was that? With that movie with Christopher Walken where he was like I think it was, or somebody like it was a Stephen King maybe, where he would see visions of the future and he tried to assassinate a politician, and the politician grabbed the kid and held it up and it destroyed the politician's career or something. That sort of feels like what Crowder's doing a little bit here. But go ahead.
Demands and threats to use this information that they believe would be so publicly embarrassing to me and my wife at a difficult time that it could be used, knowingly putting my children in harm's way. So to those self-styled Christians, conservatives, and allies, well, not in my book. Now, if you find yourself, I don't want to get into details, so this is going to likely be the only time I have to address this or want to address this. If you're asking yourself, hey, did X person or did Y person know? The answer is likely yes, which will be made alarmingly clear as this process of discovery continues. And it also, by the way, makes me that much more appreciative of those who did know about this and in understanding the best interests of my family, my children, kept their word and used discretion. I can't thank you enough. Sincerely, I appreciate it. Won't forget it. It's pretty simple. I loved a woman so much that I married her. A woman who, despite all of this, I still love as the mother of my children. And she wanted something else for her life. That's not my choice. She simply wanted out, and the law says that that's how it works. Now, of course, look, I get it. There are multiple sides to every story, but one thing that is undeniable in this case is that it's no one's fault but my own in that I picked wrong. And
My God, hold on, wait a second. I'm sorry. First off, this guy's going on talking about protecting the kids, but basically saying, like, if you want to target my wife, my ex-wife,
Yeah, she's a bitch. She left me.
She left me, and I just want to reiterate
And
for
the
the fourth time, it was not my decision. And I made a mistake. I admit that, I had some responsibility in this divorce in that I picked wrong.
I thought he was going to have some self-reflection.
Exactly.
An error of judgment.
My God.
it's interesting to note, we have this clip too, but what he's been saying about divorce. He doesn't have a lot of tweets about divorce, but he did this one from last September, 2022. Women are doing less work at home. They're unhappier. Divorce rates are skyrocketing, and men don't want to marry them. Great job, feminism. And this is, Bradley, if you could put this one up too. This is a clip from 8 months ago where he's talking about no fault divorce.
Because he's with the fixation on no fault divorce and the laws, it sounds very MRA. Like he's trying to go down that path a little bit.
I remember thinking when I saw this, I remember this from last year, like This is the first time I thought, like, is this guy getting a divorce? And it's like, that would be catastrophic for his entire, like, credibility on some of these issues. But yeah, let's go ahead.
What if this broad leaves and takes half? That's also a problem that we have. This is the only contract that I know of in this country right now that exists with no-fault divorce states, which really means it's the fault of the primary provider. Sometimes that's a woman. More often than not, it's a man. It's the only contract that I know of where one side is financially incentivized to break it. In other words, today, if you're a woman or you're a man, but it's rare. It's an uphill battle, even in no-fault states, as a man to sort of get the alimony settlement. But it does happen. So I'm speaking in generalities here, so people understand. But if you're a woman, let's say, who comes from meager means, let's sort of separate Amber Heard and Johnny Depp for a bit. If you're a woman who comes from meager means and you want to get wealthy, you've never worked, you didn't get a degree, you have no skill set, but you're good looking, your best path to victory is to simply marry a man, leave him, and take half. It's a legal guarantee.
Wow.
Whoa! I guess we don't know that Stephen is talking about the mother of his children, as he says.
But what was the tweet again, Matt? About how women
they're feminists and they don't want to be doing work in the kitchen.
They're less happy. Yeah, exactly.
Right, so they're less happy. They don't want to be doing work in the kitchen, but at the same time, women are Venus flytraps who are getting men all stuck in it, and they have no skills. So
I mean, where's the lie?
Divorced Dads Club.
Yeah, Divorced Dads Club. Let's keep going here. This is a sensitive moment for Crowder. He's not even packing heat here, as far as I can tell, unless he's got one.
On the table over there.
Yeah. No holster.
Holsters though.
Oh, he's probably got his ankle holster on it. So let's go here.
One thing that is undeniable in this case is that it's no one's fault but my own in that I picked wrong, and that's certainly not the fault of my children.
We know.
Pause it. How many times does this guy have to say it's not the fault of my 18-month-old
Seriously,
kid?
don't blame the kids who are under physical threat for some reason. I keep invoking.
Don't blame the kids for breaking up my marriage with a bitch.
I repeat, it's not their fault, particularly not Magnuson. Please don't blame him.
Who keeps saying?
No
Who keeps saying?
infidelity and no abuse. A lot of Streisand affecting here. I'm not saying,
I wonder if this is his way in his mind to keep saying it's her fault. It's her fault.
I mean, it's one way of saying it's not mine either.
My fault was that I picked wrong, but it's not my kid's fault that this divorce is happening. Who's left?
Where's the rest of the fault? Yeah, exactly.
the
I'm
woman
not
and
going
the
to say.
pro-female law rigged against men. Right?
MRA. I mean, none of those guys are explicitly MRA like these. I mean, maybe Matt Walsh is a little bit, I guess.
I mean, Jordan Peterson a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
that's right,
But
yeah.
this is a way for him to get on the Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate kind of train. He can go full divorced dad, men's rights energy.
Or it could be, hello, Stephen. You're who's laughing now, Stephen?
Yeah,
Good.
Case that it's no one's fault but my own in that I picked wrong, and that's certainly not the fault of my children.
Believe that.
And I will say that what's in the best interest of my children is not internet drama, speculation,
Like I'm
certainly not blatant or
drumming up
veiled
now.
shakedowns or dragging their father or mother, and I can't be clear on that enough, or their mother through the mud. And to anyone who tries it, I'm no longer going to pacify, capitulate, or sidestep because I love them a whole lot more than I love you. And I will continue to do whatever is necessary to protect my children. Discussing the divorce any further on social media or on this show or in any public space is not what's best for them. I'll be handling this through the proper legal avenues and channels available as a matter of record in which I have more than full confidence. So I'd ask that you understand the need for and respect our privacy in what is obviously a pretty tough time. And I hope that none of this has to go any further than that.
That's him saying the conversation's over here. This is what Candace Owens was definitely referring to. Do not look any further because it would be in bad taste.
Also, I'll get
No
the
more
lawyers
speculation,
involved, which
or
is,
I'll get lawyers, yeah.
it's a sad day because Crowder, who, purports to be a free speech guy, is now threatening to silence someone's speech. With
Wow, here is Candace Owens.
I never see her because she has me blocked.
Stephen Crowder accusing me of extortion is so patently insane that it honestly makes me question how there are still people who cannot see how thoroughly undone he has become. This is not stable behavior. He is a man on a spiral, outright bizarre and concerning. She follows up by saying, if you're going to use your children as human shields, I mean, you know what? Listen, far be it for me to agree with anything that Candace Owens says, but it was quite clear.
That's our independent conclusion.
Yes.
Broken clock here.
As human shields to block people from digging further into your divorce.
See?
Please do so without inserting me in the narrative, Steven Crowder. To remind people, the video Steven used in his show of me was a video of me responding to Steven's first set of bizarre attacks against the Daily Wire. Steven is not the victim. He never was the victim. He's just a bad person who continues to burn a lot of people. And then we have all the people who paid $8 to be in the thing, and it's not worth. For all we know, Steven Crowder could be responding to that, but you'd have to scroll all the way down to see unless he paid for his $8.
I'm sure he did. Wow.
Look, folks, and I want to say a couple of words as someone who has been through exactly what Steven's going through, even though it was,
Maybe not exactly.
well, not exactly. I mean, my kid's largely to blame. Joking, of course. It is weird that he would do this now. Like, why is he saying this now? And it is weird that like because Candace Owens recorded that video like
January?
in 3 months ago.
Yeah.
It's weird that he's clearly using his kids to monetize. I don't know. I think maybe there is something to the theory that something happened. Like
She said that he's using his kids as a shield to prevent people from digging further, right? That's what it says. Into the divorce. And Crowder's going on and saying, nope, please don't look any further. It would be in bad taste.
Well, what is also weird is that having done the exact same thing on air, announcing to our audience that I was getting a divorce. I had 2 kids as well. I still have them, in fact. They're older, so they actually watched YouTube at the time. They can Google stuff. It never occurred to me to say, this is not about infidelity or domestic abuse on either side. Right. Now, which is not to imply that there was domestic abuse or infidelity, but it just never occurred to me to sort of feel like I needed to say that.
I know what you're all thinking.
I know what you're all thinking.
And you didn't say the state of New York is totally rigged against men? Laws against men?
Somebody's reminding me, didn't Crowder maybe attack me at some point for being for being divorced? I don't think so.
Well,
I feel like
I'm not
it's possible,
sure.
but
yeah, I mean, the reason that Prager refused to debate you is because you got the number of divorces wrong.
his,
That's true.
His
That's-
marriages.
That's true.
He mainly talked about your velveteen eyes.
Yeah.
Well,
But I also want to make this offer to Steven Crowder. Steven, I am willing to talk to you through this divorce. I have navigated these waters. It's not easy, but I am happy to do a sit down on camera, of course, to talk about these things and help you navigate them if you need some help and some advice.
Maybe share some breathing exercises.
Yeah. I mean, one of those things is don't forget to breathe. Yeah, that's important. Wow.
Man, what are we going to get tomorrow? We got Tucker fired on Monday and
know.
Crowder divorced on Tuesday.
And it's a gift for you, Matt. Welcome back, gift.
this is the lack gravitational pull.
Exactly.
I did like the idea of I picked wrong. That was my one mistake I
My one
made in the
flaw.
marriage. Well, also, you know what else you picked wrong? You shouldn't be living in Texas. You should have gone to a state which would not allow a woman to get divorced without, or you should have in some like fundamentalist religions, the woman can't really get a divorce without you saying yes, right? Like you need a get, I think, amongst like Hasidic Jews. I don't know about the other stuff. So
I mean, maybe he could just move to Saudi Arabia and then keep her as chattel.
I mean, that could have been an option. All right, well, that's it. We don't have time for any more phone calls, folks. Gosh. I mean, it's going to take me a while to process this stuff, I got to say. Was not expecting this. It really came out of the blue. I mean, one of the problems with divorce in this country is that people like Stephen, like nobody even had to inform me that was happening. Mm-hmm. Not at all. Like, that they were getting a divorce.
You just had some sort of like.
There's like it's like you can't. A potential YouTube rival should be informed before any of this stuff happens, so you have a chance to plan.
I just want to thank Jay Schiavone on Twitter, a MR listener who clued me into the news, so I could.
I mean, we got it as that news was breaking.
Ring the clarion call for us to get on it.
Also, let me also say, Candace Owens, if you want to spill the beans to me because you don't feel comfortable spilling any beans,
email us.
I'm happy to.
Because
I'll make this promise. I'm not going to extort Steven Crowder or blackmail him. I'm just going to release the information if I get it.